Just because you don't hear much about Tibet, that does not mean there is no problem in Tibet. We are dying a slow death. What China is doing to the Tibetans is all aimed at eradicating Tibetan language, Tibetan culture, Tibetan religion, Tibetan way of life, so that you don't have Tibetan anymore. We have never lost hope, even after 63 years in exile. His Holiness have been preparing us from 1960 onwards. Tibetans have a saying, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. So we'll reach out to the Chinese and see whether we can return back to Tibet as soon as possible. But till such a time, even if we have to struggle for another 30, 40, 50 years down the line, we have to be prepared for it. My name is Pempa Tsering. I am the Sikong, or elected leader of the Tibetans. I am a Tibetan refugee.
Nga lo dunju tende ming la sering tundu kesa kam nangchen chokra ne hin pama sebedi pama tong ro ta nga du pama dang wo din dama er jab la ba dama er da dam dam son din minda ja ro ba ama de chang ja ro da jang sing sen sri ba jab da din din sen se go do den ge hin ne ba wa ama ni se go do la temel son mi ji ko tama thum chan sri ke je se ye me hotel 미시나 지슈르 누구도 산다 누구로 부르와 부고 세상다 건도 슈르 장네 오르더니 미망고여 다디들 미망고여 봐 단다 부랑 내수리 적은 슈충으로 왔다니 미들 다 미까지 딜 장가도 하고 말아 미 링링 들어도 오르더니 강마가 동와 되는 소리 첸레 릴데 되는 남과 사 하고 왜 말해 양 일년인데 양 첸을 구트어 오르와 हमको मार ता हमको शासारे खोलो पगजा कोए पगजा कोए ने बिस्तर थार ओ कोए थार निमा शिजी ओर 나 남가래 미 dindi시 엄마래 남갈이 시험은 잘내는 소리 롱지선 직분 차와봐야 성은도 남마트만 성은도 어떤 진데 뭐 same tang chue meba su teni rishung tene su meba su ni su gomba chukdong lakse ji tor chen tene ngan su yong shung su kan sa ta ti jene ti dasha len che dong nga mang min na su ro nga chukju ragu la mang min zo min doins mang min zu ins kan sa dasha len che da la lo ni shu tsap din de ins Pearl jig doya chungna sam sure. What it is. मुझे लो यार लेप साधु for 다르가서 다 우무똥다 둔지어레스 다발 다다 메르 이거다 이나 다 간세나 캡절로 손에 세사스 주고야 말봐 나디가르라고 그래 곰바디 네 거름이 채널스나 바빠지단 라다 진ям을 창사자는 소리 디 메모리 체들 디자빈스 마시도 우르와 마시나 딜루도 우르와 Very hot. Babasangin nangbachul tengenchik, yarab jenjik, kangri rabaikil tengenchik ngunjik. 어디 다디 따와딘도 초에게 랑이 사야당 밀때당 딘데게 체간디 딜다 그래서 딜레와 젠수리 갈레기압 지금 개와의 충세 루미용 삼 nga rangzen chedula yawa tenzin yazoge rangzen yogura re sungdos oti gunde dehins o tati nge leres Pöge sandam yewo did danyam res da dabo res did ngato lane serene pöge saje tong res di rewa de thane sana dinre ba ta pa shi se long wala pushi go re 다 개미기 dinner 시고 봐. 개미기 간도 배봤던 same thing situation 담을 시고 버드네. 이나 간도 semester 좀 말어 봐. My dream is that I want the freedom.
As a student, we had a textbook. The title was Hamare Parosi Desh in Hindi, which means our neighbor countries. And at that time, so it must be 1955, Tibet was in our textbook as a neighboring country. By 1972, it disappeared.
Tibet is about 2.35 million square kilometers, which is almost 25% of China in terms of landmass. But the population of Tibetans are only 6 million compared to 1.4 billion Chinese. So Tibetans have lived on this plateau, the Tibetan plateau, since time immemorial.
China has two strategies. Firstly, it says these regions have always historically been part of China for thousands of years, right?
Avant 1951, on a découvert qu'il n'y a aucun moment dans l'histoire où le Tibet faisait partie de la Chine. Et donc c'est une histoire fausse que les Chinois essaient d'imposer internationalement, mais ils ont assez bien de succès à faire connaître leur version de l'histoire.
Et en fait, c'est en 1949, quand Mao est revenu au pouvoir, qu'il a décrété assez rapidement qu'il faut récupérer le Tibet. Et c'est là où il a mis en place tout un plan avec des armées, et c'était vraiment une expédition. Le Tibet n'avait jamais été conquis, hein.
Ils se sont imposés sur les Tibétains contre la volonté des Tibétains à travers l'emploi de la force. Juridiquement, le Tibet est un pays occupé.
Dalai Lama is a man with no army, but he himself is so powerful, so strong. He plays the national interests in his own way, and he has managed it very well.
Just not even 1 year after coming into exile, he established democracy. And you can imagine the situation at that time, it was very, very difficult.
Just imagine 150,000 refugees, Tibetans, all over the world. And out of that 100,000 in India, and they are running a government in exile.
Now from that time he introduced democracy, and last 62 years we have been practicing democracy.
One thing I'm very impressed about Tibetans is their faith in their leader and their discipline. India has been a receiving pot for refugees from across the world. But Tibetans are unique. Here is a society, here is a community who has that strength and desire, determination, discipline, resources to build up a nation outside their own nation.
Mình là tên chính trưởng mà sẽ ngã đi lô ghế ngã đi lốp chúc ta tiếng phơi kim sĩ kim ngã là bình tĩnh nhiều ngã phụ trách ta phụ mẫu chỉ nhiều ngã chính thức xung quanh lốp trong ai chẳng nhiều ngã nhắm đồ ngã chính thức xung quanh thui ngã là thống môi yếu mong vui ra thông qua tham gia vào trong cái sự nghiệp chứng minh năng sẽ ra chứng minh để nó là một bên cho kim thang chỉ là kim thang chỉ chú nào để nó là một cái âm là đó bắt là nhân gia chỉ để đó là một cái lý sang á chế đó 아니小波其实我来个的，安定的很多的，现在就要做去，现在就才能看到谁的了，看到谁的了，我那是另个去的。아구 다상 야우 타래다 오치니 야구 시주가 병을 먹고 되죠 한쪽 아주 lum방원이 별아 이네 저 이제 나가 아주 lum방원이 켜라 오치니 별에는 사자 짱마다 안 돼야 두 정도 포장 잘라다 아니 된다 정확하게 야도 마도 아니 공부하다 아니 지도 진짜 상실당 대주한도 와 내가 하려고 표에게 생긴 일이 짜치보인 바로 지도 아니 뭐 생긴 일이 기말라 된다 리스타 리리 강라 니마스터 니마디 니마니마 친구들 바로 통해서 그러나 디 아무 집을라다 굳이 깔리는 세조라고 신. 나 저 딜럽다디 아마 집에 말하다 나 편의를 저 부지 저거 친히 세조라고 신이.
양충 둘다. 제법 남스단 상마 통보다. 제가 그냥 빼준 줄 지금. 그래서 슈가나 레사시테상이 남두시다 저 발생하면 눈 말제사시야. 그 김산 양아기 무시. 도주자 내 능한 기슈.
C'est une langue de haute culture, écrite depuis extrêmement longtemps, qui fait partie des 15 langues du monde qui sont encore en activité en écriture depuis plus de 1000 ans. Voilà, il n'y en a pas beaucoup des langues dans le monde qui ont ce prestige.
Now, with the Chinese government under Xi Jinping, they are focusing on common language. Common language is Mandarin Chinese. So over the last 60 years, there have been series of policies on the language itself, because that is the root of our culture. And today, they teach Chinese from kindergarten, from Montessori. So thereby, you wipe out Tibetan language.
Le danger va venir à partir du moment où les Tibétains ne vont plus pouvoir parler leur langue et lire leur langue. Et ça, depuis l'ascension de Xi Jinping au pouvoir en 2012, vraiment la langue tibétaine, tout comme toute langue qui n'est pas chinoise en Chine, la langue tibétaine est vraiment mise à mal.
In my opinion, Dalai Lama is a wonderful monk statesman. Dalai Lama has a vision. He established all these things. He established a fresh education system. All these Tibetans, you see them in Switzerland, in France, in America, Australia, they are all young boys and girls who were educated in India, in Tibetan schools.
Because education is the, is the key to battle with China. Because if we look at the arms and ammunitions, he says, we don't have. What do you want to do? We are minority people. Now look at China. They are powerful. They have everything. What we can do is study, education, compassion, kindness. So these are the ways in which way we are adapting, to counterattack Chinese occupation.
It is becoming more difficult because less people are coming out, and they can come out only illegally. Whereas 2020 we had only 5 people, 2021 only 10 people, 2022 only 4 people, this year only 11 people. Before 2008 we used to receive any number between 2,500 to 3,000.
Students from Tibet are very much less. You can count only one children, 2 children or 0. And from 2008, no children from Tibet, only from Himalaya regions like Ladakh, Spiti, Khunu, Zum, Tolpo, Tawang students, not from Tibet at all.
In 2008, we have In whole TC we have almost 20,000 students are studying in it. Now we have almost 6,000.
Before, these kind of class are full of students from Tibet, from other places. Until now, it's all empty.
I'm really worried because I came from Tibet, isn't it? And I got this opportunity to study here, my culture, my language, my history. And now, children coming from Tibet has been blocked. Now they are not getting chance to learn their own language. And I was wondering what would happen after 20 years. Once we don't have a language, then nothing is left. What we have nothing.
플레이어 좀 빌름 챙기도 가지다 표 챙기도 정말로 플레이어 리니 챙기도 이내 점이 살아오지 바이메 아빠요 아니면 예뻐라다 아마라 그린 북이요 나 전부잖아 빨래다 아마이가 그린 북 좋아했어
年明了这里导师语，他的老师说的，你当你是老给导师被抽起了，呢，咱就我就给拍拍建议。这个拍呀，这你妈那有啊，这个但让我一个记得你妈那三轮的是口语。
知道啊。
근데 저희도만 따던 거는 신하고 시우동안 내양고 시우 캡제 대배간데래. 나 자갈 수 표현 거 알아. 개미기 시주 나로 가르쳐 자가다 저거 제배 주고 계급 카제진 루시제. 론이슈츠 정간 주고 그래. 다바스 디디타우더네. 你这按是不是你？科技确实吧？对，那么这地不的，你这真的。 디카레인스는 표현하러 여름시 구바다 뭐주 게달 디게 고 통야고 요 말이라 계시 게다다 구바 통배 쪽으로 정간하러 롱아주 양주구요데 가요라고요리 주교 망보레스 난 네발 리지제 여름부지 구바다 NGO디나 리지제 엔가 직낭디 베드 클릭을 예외 소시차를 네가 이거 진짜 나를 배부지로 와 당부디 법은 이도만다 변화로 겹자 차야되다 귤럼지로 하다가 넘기네. 그래서 딩아래기 인트레스 어디다 지금 그것은 변의 보딩 스쿨 시행의 그 선교군의 나이 디방다 장로 배숑다 장로가 하고 어디
China is establishing colonial boarding schools, forcefully making parents send their children to these schools to study Chinese, Potonghua language, the main Beijing dialect spoken by a majority of Han Chinese, to study Chinese culture, to study Chinese ideology of Mao, and now I'm sure they're studying ideology of Xi Jinping. Like forcing children to go to a certain school is not right. Like the parents have full right to decide where they want to send their children.
럽중 루름 족부도 변화돼 족분의 눈분의 지전 톨롭 텐드부도 야날랍들 쪽요. 야, 또 군주 배제시는 사변분이 몰라 되바 군주기 마오쩌둥기 강벌에서 안 되다 군주 초강에서 안 돼. 어와 된대치. 근데 김이 마르쇼가 셰럽 근데 방직지제 클라사가지 방직지제 랍자지 방직지제 녀간을 로용야 사변벌이 님다 양 광단데 비는 김이 마르쇼가 셰인데 또 가나 소수 배배소리 처음도 소수 뭐마시하죠 말을 배저신의 아 배배 인사지 그 시샤스죠 말을 그래서 벽에 마신 뷰이 마신 수수직중 하마고 게이데 갸게 잡으면 안 사도 어디 처시치 컨설팅지제니 릭줍체도 제심브레셔스 어디에 좋아이 있어.
The older generation is getting more separated from the younger generation because of that. Like imagine not seeing your children for so many months and they come back and they're Chinese now. And they're not talking even to their parents, they're like very distant because they're like taught all sort of false information about Tibet being barbaric, Tibetan being, and they're like, oh, they're very skeptical about their own family now.
Yeah, that 캐나라브드 당지제 근데 야 로인베주도 바다숙 전부 치어동아 그래서 내가 시야데 수수육 직중 하고 말에 망제 게이 돈의 집도 그저 수수 미리 직중도 숙 전부 시키는 바다도 숙 전부 치어도 바다도 숙 전부 치어서도 막 안에 김상다 망치 김상다 저와 친구 마도보다 안에 그것도 진로로 되는 중인데 자야 주와 나와 뭐 되는 것이지 참로 초와 필링스를 줘라. 이제 때문에 이제 나오는 뭐 통도 마다 나타신부 때문에 나로 되는 디버던데 때문에 민로 디사티거사. 어 주문슈 어디 나로 그 미스르시. 그래서 비게 정화요 말아. 아 배도 가와치네 파르체 가와치네레다 배도를 직 face ID 주부 디미 ID 렘 체제 엔디치도 더 단어 더 주면서도 배주셔 더디 정그 교육을 쇼줘라 디 소녀의 수레스나 아니 커뮤니스트 파티 초보국의 쇼드스 댐다니 캐나나버체 댐 첨예도 무슨 거죠 저도스
In our annual report, we put self-immolation in the category of freedom of expression, particularly because there is no freedom of expression, there is self-immolation. In the case of Tsawang Norbu, the famous Tibetan thinker, like he is very well known even in China, and he decided to self-immolate in front of the Potala Palace. He did. But do we have any evidence? No. Do we have any video clip? No. Do we have any picture? No. Because they are immediately censored. Even if you take video, like phones are snatched, videos are deleted.
Quran balang wane shuvne daure. Quran ki pugu ke kulu mechu pibwa. Quran bala le kangate cha bala namda gyep chi che rangshi mo gyep rangyep chaya chuba. Rangshi mo gyep rangyep sa karesna pugu ke da di chebra kulu mechu pibwa. 발라를 가르치 그랬으는 발라는 또 초도 맵 수고가 다 그래서 바랑 원에 벤조간 소도 맵수 창원 제차는 우투야 그 자주시 배야지 맵에. 또 구바르디주 넘증 걸로네 저 다들부터 자공전당 그 전주 전왕 원규 그 월라 배버 독주 대배 굴로 매주 표현이 그 자당 좀 그 민남 그 구바르스 바르디 저 조디 군수 그 버전 능시 당부 별로 장왕 고유스 니부터 겨울은 붙이 주 변화로 된지 쉬고 유스 대딩이 그 버저디 단대부터 배드 캡치죠 군수 그 상물로 같이 있는 시들이스 당나 오는다 샘교야 이임브로다 디가 계속 앞 수출 말다 비노 대나로 바르지나로 나님도 유해브레 간에서 나 뒤도마 수출 마다 광을 굴미주 표시제 쉬고대 암라게 각동 제종 뭐 표시제 어디 암라게 샘수단다 저라 샘수단다다 그랬는데 중집에도 저 단도부터 랍자 땅디게 주제 지조들 셴펜 주투리 라원자 투పు리 출로 저 겨름부지 제가 슈가 저 겨름부지 제차서는 응주 디치투리 술로 주니슈 숨주 땅비네래
My name is Ngawan Lungto. I'm currently 28 years old. Yeah, I was born and brought up in India. My work basically is to monitor human rights situation inside Tibet, get proper information, and then write reports and disseminate the information throughout the world.
additional information may marang yat ke na thimi de me ani morangi demand ni ta tumshi ko ni ko se ya ta de chamo se te chason do chu da ani ni se kashi na lo mo bi tan da ko do ta ko da di
The most important is the safety of the people who are sending us this information. Because the people inside Tibet are risking their lives to send us this information, that we are able to tell the world what is happening inside Tibet, despite all the great firewalls, surveillance, censorship, and with the advancement of technology. China is also using technology to further surveil Tibetan people. I found it really important that before we fight for independence, we must fight for Tibetans inside Tibet, because Tibetans in exile are only just like 100,000 something, but inside Tibet there are like almost 6 million Tibetans are inside Tibet. So they're the ones who are actually suffering, right? They're the ones who actually need basic human rights. All the files are related to the Tibetan political prisoner inside Tibet, who were either arbitrarily detained or kidnapped incommunicado, or tortured, beaten to death, or died after torture. Oh yeah, this is the Pension Lama file. Oh yeah, this is all regarding Pension Rinpoche.
On 17 May, we are marking the 28 years of disappearance of Panchen Lama. Panchen Lama is our second highest spiritual leader after 14th Dalai Lama, and he was kidnapped at the age of 6.
In 1995, he was recognized by His Holiness, and on the next day, China kidnapped him and took him away with his family. So the whole family disappeared.
C'est un prisonnier politique, prisonnier religieux, prisonnier d'un système totalitaire qui veut contrôler tout. Le gouvernement chinois dit qu'il a été éduqué dans une école, qu'il est très bien, qu'il est très sain, qu'il est très, très content, etc. Mais on ne l'a plus vu et personne ne l'a vu et il ne laisse personne aussi le visiter. Donc on ne sait pas vraiment s'il vit encore, s'il ne vit pas. C'est le prisonnier politique. C'était le prisonnier politique le plus jeune. Maintenant, il n'est plus si jeune, mais il est encore toujours prisonnier politique.
I mean, we don't even know if the child is aware that he's Panchen Lama. Like, he must be educated, like, through propaganda education. You can see all the information, petition letters, applications in release of Panchen Lama. TCHRD sent a memorandum to US President George Bush to raise issue of Gendiche Ginima. And we also sent some other petition letters.
There has been a lot of inquiries with the Chinese government, including the United Nations Human Rights Council, but there has been no response. I can't say there is no response, but the response is that he's well, he's studying, he doesn't want to be disturbed. So we still don't know whether he's alive or not, where he lives, which part of Tibet or China he lives. We still don't know anything about him. There is so much opaqueness, but the question is, why did China fear a 6-year-old boy?
Pour les Tibétains, c'est un choc terrible, c'est une sorte de traumatisme parce que dans l'histoire récente, je parle depuis 200 ans du Tibet, les Dalai Lama et les Panchen Lama se sont donc reconnus mutuellement lors de la réincarnation. Bon, tout ça, ça semble sûrement un peu ésotérique aux Français, mais ça marche très bien dans le monde tibétain, tout le monde l'accepte. Et donc, si un chaînon manque, eh bien, ça veut dire que les systèmes de reconnaissance ne vont plus marcher. Donc, si on n'a plus de Panchen Lama, eh bien, le prochain Dalai Lama va être validé par qui? Va être reconnu par qui?
I think China is more interested in that. They are always talking about the reincarnation of the 14th Dalai Lama and all that. The 14th Dalai Lama is very much alive today, but they don't give importance to him. They are more bothered about the 15th Dalai Lama because they want to control.
So this shows that the impact of Dalai Lama still is very, very strong inside Tibet, in the heart of Tibetans today. So China, here, they find themselves helpless against Dalai Lama. They see his influence. Even when he's absent, he is equally strong in Tibet. So that is why China hates Dalai Lama. That is why China now is trying to see that the next incarnation of Dalai Lama should be in the pocket of China.
My opinion is that Xi Jinping no longer cares about what happens outside of China or what people think very much. He no longer really cares about, I think, even the status of the Dalai Lama. He says he's for sure gonna set up his own Dalai Lama and say, look, we have the only legal one according to Chinese law and true Buddhist religion. We are picking one inside of China, and that's the real one.
Si le combat tibétain a marché jusqu'à maintenant, c'est parce qu'ils avaient justement cette icône, ils avaient cette personne qui incarne le combat tibétain. Quand il ne sera plus là, ce sera absolument dramatique. Donc, est-ce qu'ils arriveront, même entre eux, à maintenir cette cohésion? Est-ce qu'ils arriveront à maintenir l'intérêt, qui est déjà assez compromis? En fait, je crois que tout le monde y pense et tout le monde a peur d'y penser.
If I cry in the camera or like that, someone will say it's a fake, whatever. But inside, all the Tibetans are dying because His Holiness the Dalai Lama always are aging. So we always are worried if His Holiness the Dalai Lama someday gone. So what we can do in India? India will let us stay here. So we always worry. We have to find other way where we can go, where we can protect our language, our culture.
I personally feel that His Holiness, right now, His Holiness is our spiritual leader, not the political leader. His Holiness already gave his power to the Tibetan people. We are the Tibetan and we are the refugee as a political refugee, not as an economic refugee, not as a refugee, not as a religious refugee. We were the political refugee. So we have to, every people have to think about the political way, so that we could approach something, so we could focus on our struggle.
Tibetans, I think, now will have to learn to take more responsibility on their shoulders. So far, it's only His Holiness, His Holiness. Of course, one way it's good that you have too much trust towards His Holiness. But again, the question comes, when His Holiness is no more there, how are we going to carry forward? I never thought I'll reach this position. My father instilled in us the Tibetanness and the need to work for that. So there has always been this constant aspiration that you have to work for your people. So my whole life, this life at least, I'm dedicated to the Tibetan issue. Whether I hold a position or not hold a position, it doesn't matter. I call our generation as the bridge generation between the Tibetans who came from Tibet and those who are now younger generation. We have to bridge them because the people who are now in 30s, 40s have never witnessed cultural revolution of the generation that went through so much torture, so much mental anguish, so much incarceration and so much oppression from the Chinese leadership. When we were children, Our parents had just come from Tibet, so they used to talk a lot about Tibet, and you know, I have never set my foot on Tibet. So I try to go to the nearest border just for my emotional need. Just before coming here, I went to Ladakh, just near on the other side is Tibet.
What is your biggest dream?
To go back to Tibet. To go back to Tibet and to see Tibetans enjoying freedom, to Tibetans be able to preserve and promote their language, for the Tibetans to have freedom to study their religion. And that is very basic. It's all granted in the free world. Whereas in Tibet, in Uyghur, in everywhere else, you have to struggle to get this freedom. So if we get that freedom, there is nothing more that I would ask for.